Welcome to the Reddit Chronicles. Today we will be reading from Today I F'd Up. Our first post is by Without Dennis Nedry. Today I F'd up by confirming for the flight attendant that I am a Reverend. I was across the country, US, attending the funeral of my cousin who had passed from COVID and had used my vacation savings to purchase first-class plane tickets for my journey. It wasn't the fun vacation I had saved for, but I was glad I had stashed enough to shell out for the good seats, as I was in an absolutely crap mood and just wanted a little bit of comfort for myself in such an emotional time. I'm on the 4.5-hour section of my trip home, and we are just getting up to cruising altitude when I notice a bit of commotion at the back of the plane. I'm not in the mood for drama, so I ignore it and put my headphones on to listen to some true crime podcasts. I'm starting to doze off to murder and mayhem when I get a tap on my shoulder. Looking up, I see a flight attendant motioning for me to remove my headphones. I slide them off one ear and she says, "I'm sorry, Miss Dennis Nedry, but you are flying under the honorific of Reverend. Are you a minister of some sort?" A little background. Way back in 2000, my sister was getting married in a secular ceremony and asked me to officiate. So I got my official ordination credentials through ULC, Universal Life Church, for that purpose. Since then, I've actually married 6 couples over the years, so it's been a super handy thing to have. Annoyed that the only non-binary honorifics available when purchasing a plane ticket through most US airlines are Doctor and Reverend, I always choose the Reverend option when I fly. Why we even still require such titles for air travel when you already, understandably, have to state your gender to purchase a ticket is beyond me, but that's for another day. Back to the flight. I'm confused by why the flight attendant is asking. I'm thinking maybe she has a religious question, and even though I'm an atheist, I do have an advanced degree in religious studies and one in philosophy and can and will happily talk theology most days. Or maybe she has a question about getting credentials like I did. Curious, I answer to the affirmative. She follows up by asking, "Can you please follow me?" and motions to do so. Oh crap, I think. What if someone is dying and they want last rites or something? I'm clearly not a priest. I don't know what I was thinking. Now I'm really confused, and since my headphones are off, I can hear stifled wailing from somewhere behind me. I get up and follow as she and I walk to the back of the plane. At the very last row, there's a woman in clear distress with a few other passengers and another decidedly annoyed-looking flight attendant around her. The flight attendant I'm following turns to me and says, "This woman says she's in spiritual crisis and asked us to find out if anyone on the plane is a minister or deacon or something similar. We looked at the manifest and saw Rev in front of your name and wondered if you could please help calm her down." As she's saying this, the lady, I'd say around 65 or so, looks at me with puffy eyes and a red face, and she just looks so sad. I'm kind of on the spot here. If I say no, I really feel like this woman is going to continue to carry on, making everyone's flight miserable. But at the same time, 1, she's not my responsibility. 2, I'm not the kind of practicing Reverend I'm sure she's looking for. 3, I'm a freaking atheist. I feel like I'd be misleading her to step in. There's something very disingenuous about thinking my college degrees could come close to the work a real religious leader does for people. 4, I don't want to get involved in the level of potential crazy that is a public crisis on an airplane of all places. 5, I really just want to be left alone and not drug into an in-flight telenovela. I look at the flight attendant and tell her I'm sorry. I'm a Reverend in name only, and I don't think I'm what they need. She looks pretty dejected and says she understands, but really, the woman just needs someone to talk to as she's coming back from her son's funeral. She says I'm free to go back to my seat, of course, and she'll let the lady know I can't help her. Y'all, my heart broke for the woman. Maybe it was because I was dealing with my own grief or because the lady just looked so broken, but I really felt for her. I leaned over the seat in front of her and told her I was not a real practicing Reverend, but if she just needed someone to listen to her, I'm all ears. I spent the rest of my flight in her husband's seat, and he got to sit in mine in first class. He looked like he maybe needed it more than I did, to be honest. Her name was Lydia, and she talked my ear off about her son for 4 more hours. We laughed. We cried. I really wanted to just sit in peace in my own seat and ignore the world, but I'm glad I could be there for Lydia. She was just overwhelmed, and it all came spilling out when she least expected it. I totally get it. Anyway, had the flight attendant told me what was going on before taking me down the plane to Miseryville, I would have immediately let her know I couldn't help. I wonder if it had been someone with doctor in front of their name, and a medical emergency was happening, if the flight attendant would have sprung someone in cardiac arrest on a physicist or classical history professor. Sounds like a Monty Python sketch. Our next post is by Silent Dessert Food. Today I effed up by going on a blind date. Today I effed up by going on a blind date a friend of mine set me up on. My friend had told me his friend and I would get along, were both single, had similar interests, the usual story. Eventually, I agreed to go out with him and his girlfriend to meet her. Time and place was set, casual low-key night planned. The last thing anyone needs is to be stuck on a train wreck date. I arrived early, texted and met my friend and his girlfriend. Drinks were ordered, started chatting and all was well. A short time later my blind date turned up. Things were going okay. Bonded over jokes about bad dates, talked about music, wandered for a bit together, fairly harmless stuff. Evening drew to a close. I waited with her for her ride to turn up. Driving and alcohol is not a good idea. Before I called myself a ride share. So far, a good night, right? Can we see where I have made the fatal error? Because I sure didn't. Her ride was her sister. Her sister being my ex of around 6-ish months ago. This did not go unnoticed by my ex, who appeared to be silently figuring out if she was able to set both of us on fire with thought alone. The farewell was a little awkward to say the least. This is not my today I effed up moment. It was around an hour later my blind date texted me almost simultaneously with a number of them from my ex. Remember the part about joking about previous bad dates? I had told a couple stories that involved her sister, in turn giving away that my ex had bailed on a big family event for a date with me. And this was also the reason they had spent a week looking for the lost family dog, thanks to her sneaking in that night drunk off her ass. Without getting too much into the details here, both my ex and my blind date are now mad at me since the household by all reports makes World War III look like a calmer option. My friend has also texted me asking what the heck I did since the fallout has already begun spreading. Update: it's now the next day. Things have calmed down considerably. My friend has got the whole story and is no longer concerned I did something awful. By reports from my blind date, my ex is still annoyed and sulking. Not sure about the rest of that family, but told the house is no longer resembling a Jerry Springer episode. Blind date also apologized for being a bit freaked out by the whole thing and the stress of her house turning into Pompeii so rapidly. We are also going to a film festival type thing tonight. She has already made a few jokes about having been intimate with her sister previously, and let me know that to her it will continue to be funny. Can't say I blame her on that. Blind date has also mentioned that her sister finds the jokes about that side of the situation much less amusing than we do, which could explain the look of death when she picked her up last night. Thank you for listening to the Reddit Chronicles. Follow for more content.